Good morning. No, maybe. Good morning. Just want to thank you guys for coming out to our training. We know that you guys wear quite a few hats. How many just testing coordinators do we have? That's all you do all day long and do nothing else. You're just a testing Would you please stand up so that we can all be jealous of you? You do all of the tests at your high school. She does AP. She does so much. And what high school is that? So we're all jealous of Oak Ridge. How many staffing specialists do we have? And that's all you do. You're just a staffing specialist. All right, dog. In the blue, what school is that? That's all you do is just a staffing specialist right here? She said pretty much. She knows that's not all she does. She said it is. Okay, why don't you stand up and tell us? Well, tell her. She doesn't. It's Wendy Ridge. Okay, so we're all jealous of Oak Ridge and Wendy Ridge. Any more ridges in here just doing just that? Well, I would step out of the way, but Rochelle and Cindy and Barrington have put on a wonderful training for you. I want you to pay very close attention to what they have to say. Rochelle has been with the district too many years to count how many, and we understand that you guys are going to take the information back and give it to the teachers and make sure that they do it right. And we're going to have a really, really smooth testing season, right? Right? Right. So thank you so much for coming out. I see some familiar faces and some not so familiar faces. And if you're new to the job, raise your hand. This is your first time. You have no idea what they're going to be telling you. Okay. Well, Dr. Sherp. Well, sit next to someone who, especially one of the Ridges, who that's all they do. So this is what they do. They're perfect at what they do. So if you have any questions, ask them and then ask Rochelle. All right? Have a great day.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cindy Landers, and I'm going to be presenting this morning along with my colleague, Rochelle Metz. Huh?
I have music.
Oh, you have music on.
I'm
Oh,
so sorry.
I can't even hear it. Oh. You just hit the pause button too little. Yeah.
I did. Just
didn't
didn't
work?
stop. It's okay. There we go. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to be presenting together. I'm going to do the first little part, which basically my job in the county is to run all the district and state mandated programs for Orange County. I do everything from CFEs to iReady to all the state assessments, and I touch SAT and ACT, AP, those kinds of things. So, but my expertise is not with ESE kids, or especially these kids that can't access the FSA, and that's why they created the FSAA. That is Rochelle's expertise. So I'm going to be talking to you about the materials, the actual administration governing piece of it, security and that kind of thing. I'm only going to take about 20, 30 minutes this morning. And before he gets out of here again, Bear, would you raise your hand? My counterpart in the assessment office is Barrington Maxwell. You can contact him as well as me, but I'll show you that in just a minute. But just because I do not have kids, and how do I get to, there it is. Hang on just a minute. This is, oops, it's not showing. How come it's not showing? Where is this? Is it down here under?
Let's see if we escape.
Oh, there it is. Now it should show. Come on.
Okay, minimize, let's minimize this. Let's see.
I'm really technically advanced, as you can tell. Ah,
There it is.
there it is. My little one-year-old nephew was in the hospital with pneumonia, which scared the heck out of us. Well, he was a preemie set of twins, and this is the homecoming. They would not let go of each other. Chloe was walking around the house yelling, Connor, Connor, because he wasn't home for 3 days. And this was their homecoming on Valentine's Day. So I just had to share. Isn't that sweet? That was just, and he's doing fine. So I just got that good news this morning.
Just go ahead and click.
Okay, so let's get back to the stuff that we don't care about quite as much as that.
Where'd yours go?
Where'd mine go? Yeah. Oh, I know where it is. Let me put that down there, and then we'll do this. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Okay, so here's who we are in my side of this process. The assessment office, you see it's myself, the contact information, Barrington Maxwell, and Jeanette Figueroa is the one that handles most of our materials for us. Oh, and before I forget, we do have this PowerPoint, both of them posted out onto the IMS page. So if you have a laptop, you can go to the ims.ocps.net, go to Research Accountability and Grants, Test Development and Measurement, Student Assessments, and then hit the FSAA page, and then the PowerPoints are already posted. The district has gotten a lot of feedback, and we've been asked to start saving money, as we know we always do, and printing out these PowerPoints became really, really expensive, so they've asked us to cut back on that. But we'll always make them available, and they're out there now, so you can either do it if you have your laptop, or it will be available for you as soon as you get back to the office. Okay, you can contact us for ordering additional materials, questions about test security, questions about material pickup or return, the upload of the writing response, and templates, the district copies that you will be sending back to us. That's kind of the scope of what we handle. And then for all of those other things, you'll contact Rochelle and or Rochelle's office, and I think she's got a couple people helping her out. So she'll be going over that with her portion. Important dates. The delivery of the elementary and middle school materials are going to be happening very shortly. We're expecting them to arrive this week. They may have hit the warehouse this morning. We had several things come in, so you will probably be getting your materials next week. You do have your administration packets. Barrington just dropped those up outside. So when you leave, you will be able to pick up your administration packets, which Rochelle's going to talk about when she gets to her part. The last day to upload student response for elementary and middle is April 13th, so you may want to note that on your calendar. Once they get past that date, the state shuts these sites down, and they don't reopen. They are not, unless there was some big technical issue statewide, they generally are pretty hard about these deadlines, so you definitely want to get that marked. The FSA test delivery for high school is going to be right after spring break. We're getting the materials, I believe, that Thursday, Friday before spring break. There's no way for us to get it to you before spring break happens, so we will be hitting the roads first thing Monday morning for high schools to deliver your materials. The last day to upload student response for high school is April 27th. So you want to get that on your calendar. We will be picking up all the materials, elementary, middle, and high, starting May 1st. As soon as that last window closes, we're going to pick up. The problem with picking up before that, especially for the elementary middle, is because we're rolling this in and merging all the different tests that are going on. This isn't the only one, so we kind of have to schedule and make sure those drivers, because we do have a limited number of drivers that we have access to. So I just talked about the IMS page, and this is our FSAA IMS page. If you go out there, we have a ton of information out there. We actually have, man, I'm getting so blind and deaf. We've got the training materials. The PowerPoint is out there now. We are going to be we are recording this, so this recording will also be out there. So if you want to show it to somebody else in your school, now this is not what you want to show your teachers, but if you have a colleague that's going to be helping you manage, you may want them to sit through it. Or it's there for you to just go in and refresh if you need to. We've got resources out there. Parent communication, the parent letter has been posted, so it's all out there on our IMS page. Again, it's just ims.ocps.net. Research Accountability and Grants, or RAG. I know, that's an awful, doesn't sound very nice, does it? Go to RAG, which is on the top buttons, then Test Development and Measurement, Student Assessments, and then you'll see all of the tests across across our page, and just go to any of the FSAA pages links, and then you'll see it. Okay, test security training. How many of you all have already done your test security training? Most of you have. Make sure that your teachers have done this. Now, I'm suspecting that a lot of them have, because they've been helping out with other assessments, whatever. But if they haven't, they must go through the test security training, and participants must earn 100% on the quiz to be awarded a certificate, which they need to be able to assess. It's not very long. It is not rocket science. Most of it is very, very common sense about what we do to make sure we have level playing fields for all kids. This does not, all the training, this does not take place of your test administrator training, which Rochelle's going to talk about, but this is necessary for everybody who is going to touch the test to go through. So test administrators, proctors, anybody helping you out needs to have gone through this. Okay, the second thing I'm going to talk about here is the administration and registration tools. This is the piece, and Rochelle's also going to talk about this platform. This is where you're going to be managing your students, your teachers, where you're going to put in the student scores, where you're going to upload the writing. Is that right?
Okay, the teacher puts in the students.
Right.
And they upload the writing.
So that is uploaded out there, right. So, but this is where you manage all of that. The students are out there. You are going to be out there with an account today. Sometime today, you are going to get an email from, I don't know whether it's going to say ART, if it's going to say Administration Registration Tools, or FSAA. It might even say DRC. No, Piedra Data Services. But just be aware that you're going to get an email, and it's going to ask you to complete your login information. It'll ask you to set up a password. So you click on the link, and then you will change the password from what we set it at, from what it was set at, and you'll get that in the email, and then you go in. So just be looking for that today. If you don't get it by tomorrow morning, you can give us a call. Now, just a note, I will not be in the office Friday or Monday, so you can call Barrington for that, or Jeanette, and they can help you out with that if you don't get it. I will be back in the office on Tuesday. Now, your username, and the username you'll use also for teachers, is 48 plus your school number, and you don't put the plus sign in there, but it's 48, say 1001, the first two letters of your first name and your last name. So mine would be 480000 because I'm not tied to the school, CYLANDERS. That's my username. Very, very convoluted and long, but that's the way they've set it up. So be aware that that's what you want to put your teachers in when you enter your teachers. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, here is what your landing page looks like. You've got 4 sections. Actually, there's another one down there, the diagnostic, which they don't use, right?
It's just to check and make sure their system works.
That their system is working, okay. So you've got students, teachers, school level coordinators, which you will not use. That's what I use to make sure yours is in or to put individuals in. And then you've got the assignments, okay, and that's where you tie the teacher and student together. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So here is what your landing page looks like. You'll add new students if you have new students, since we added the file into there, assigning students to a teacher and entering the scores. Under teachers, that's where you add your teachers. And then under assignments is where you view the student assignments and make sure you've got everything set up correctly. Okay, so when you're adding teachers, you simply click on the teacher link. It'll automatically bring you up what's on the left-hand side. And then if you put Add Teacher, which is the first button there, the blue button on that left-hand side, and it'll bring up that little, that second side of it. Very, very simple. It asks for the name, first name, last name, asks for the user ID, which I've given you the formula for, and email address. This one's asking for district. It will automatically put your district and school in there since you're assigned to a school. And that's pretty much the information that you put in there. You don't have to get any long bunch of demographics or anything like that. But you do need to get your teachers in. You want to get that done first so you can go ahead and start making those assignments. You can't assign the students until you get your teachers in there. Okay, for students, when you hit that student button, you automatically see that the left-hand side of that, and it'll give you a list of your students. You will see their FLE ID number, the FLE ID number on the left-hand side, which I've blanked out, their name, their grade level, and then it also shows you what level you're at putting their scores in, or the teacher, what level she's at, whether it be 10%, 25%, I think it's 25, 50, and 100. So it just tells you, you could go out there and see, okay, how many of the kids have my teachers entered all the scores for, so you can keep a monitor on that. You don't have to enter the scores, but you do need to monitor it to make sure everybody's getting those in. Okay? If you do need to enter a student, you see that on the right-hand side. Very simple. There's only a couple of things you have to do here. It's not a complicated system. It's pretty user-friendly, and there's minimal information that needs to actually go out there. Okay, the next slide. The next thing you have to do out there is create the assignments. Before the kids can be tested, they must be assigned to their teacher. Okay, the files do not do that. They want you guys to do that. Because I guess there's been lots of changes from the time we send files, so they'd rather it be completely current. So nobody has hundreds of kids that they need to deal with this. We do have a few center schools that do have quite a few kids, but just be aware that, you know, you have to make those assignments before you can start testing kids. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want is the FSAA procedural manual. It's available now on our portal, the same place, or on the FSAA portal. We have also posted this out onto our IMS page. Okay, you definitely want to print this out. Unfortunately, the state's getting really chintzy, everybody is. I mean, it's the same way with us in PowerPoint. They're not printing out what they used to. So you definitely need those, the procedural manual, you want to get a copy of that. Are there any questions so far? Yes, ma'am. And you have to talk out really loud.
Taking data folio, would I do the same thing?
No.
Okay. Well,
Will you be addressing data folio?
Yeah, I'll talk briefly about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about art and these different websites. Are those all on the IMS site that you've cited before?
We will have the, and thank you for that. And I think I left a slide out. To get to art, it is https:// no www, leave that off, just Florida dot Tao cloud, all one word, .org. That gets you to the art site. It's the same link you used last year, but we will make sure that's on. I think it's still there from last year, but we'll make sure that it doesn't need to be updated.
And there is a link to that on the FSAA portal, which
On
I'm
the
going to show
FSA
them.
portal, but it will also be on the IMS page. Okay, reminders. Assessments for grades 3 through 8 in ELA 1 will consist of 2 form types, Form A and B. ELA 2 and Access EOC assessments, including civics, algebra 1, geometry, and biology and U.S. history, will consist of 4 types, A, B, C, and D. So be aware of that you've got forms to deal with of the test, and to make sure that you've got everything all under one form before you start, and you have the consistent form types. All forms of the assessment contain 19 items per content area. The writing will be assessed in grades 4 through 8 and ELA 1 and 2. And the writing prompt 1 and writing prompt 2 will be common across all forms. So there is only the 2 prompts, okay, at the grade levels. And again, all of the administration materials are available on the FSAA portal, and you see the link right there to that. May 1st, make sure you get that, and we will send out reminders. All not to be scored materials must be ready for pickup. Now be aware that you already have everything in the system and scored, but we are responsible for all of the materials. And we have to get these back by the deadline. And if things are missing, we will get phone calls from the state. And then if you're missing something, that generates an investigation. And then you have to search schools and all kinds of things. So make sure you are handling your materials securely. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But make sure you have everything accounted for by that and packed up by that May 1st date. Again, security, this is a secure assessment. I know it's much, much different than the FSA, but it still is a state test and is handled with the same security as you do with FSA, if you happen to know anything about that one. All test administrators and coordinators must sign that performance test administration and security agreement. And officer friendly here, again, I'm not going to dwell a lot on this, but please make sure that your teachers understand the importance of handling this correctly. We have had some issues in the past. Teachers are losing their job and their livelihood for doing something really stupid. I mean, I just can't stress this enough. Nothing is worth putting your job and your career at jeopardy. Do not do anything. Make sure they have read through those security agreements and the security rules, what they can and can't do. Make sure they know what that is, okay? Because there is just nothing that is worth losing your career over. And if it's the state test, the state will pull certifications. We've had it happen in a couple of cases. We've been lucky, but and it happens, they get caught. It's, I can't tell you that it's just stupid things. You know, a kid talks to their parents and says, my teacher was helping me out with these questions or something like that. I think not my favorite, but the one that to me was like, a teacher had actually copied the science assessment from the previous year. She'd taken pictures on her cell phone. The next year, to prep her kids, she sent that to the printer in the front office. I'm assuming after hours. The printer ran out of paper and she didn't notice. The next morning when the secretary came into the office, put paper in there, the rest of the assessment popped out. Well, guess what? I've got a phone call within about 5 minutes. Okay, that teacher no longer teaches, has no certification, and does not teach anywhere. Stupid, stupid, stupid. So please just make sure your teachers know, stress to them, you're there to help them. We are not here to, use this as a hammer over their heads. We want it to go smoothly, but we want them to do it wisely, get the information on the kids, and move on. Okay, again, you'll need to inventory all the materials. You complete the chain of custody form, which is in the back of the manual. You must have them stored securely and under lock and key. They must not remain at a teacher's desk or in a teacher's classroom overnight. Again, your responsibility is those materials, making sure that you know where they are at all times. Make sure wherever you've got them stored is no more than 3 people have access. Now, sometimes you don't have huge amounts of this. If that's a locked cabinet in a room where maybe more than 3 people have access to, that's okay, as long as only less than 3 have access to the locked cabinet. We're going to have to be dealing with this much more next year, because next year we not only have FSAA and SLC as paper pencil, the whole district from 3 through possibly 8 is moving back to paper. So storage is going to be a real critical issue, and we're going to be dealing with that sometime next year. But for now, most of the schools are getting very little paper for FSA, so you guys still have, some time for that. Okay, you must track these by the security numbers, the booklets. You must know what student was assigned which booklet. And you see notated on there where the security number is. And on the next slide, you'll see that it's on the booklets. It's identical to what it was last year. You see these say 2017, but it's exactly the same this year, so I didn't switch the slide out. You will have access to the security checklists. These are the documents that you can track it on. Now, if you want to make up your own document, that's perfectly fine. If you have something last year that you made up in Excel, that's perfectly fine as long as you have all of that information out there. It doesn't matter that it's on this exact form, okay? But just make sure you're tracking that information. If you need additional materials, the order form is located, again, where? On our IMS page. We do not accept orders anymore unless you fill out the order form. Right now, we've got access for L's. We're going to be getting writing any minute. We're going to be getting your materials any minute. We need to have that documentation so we keep track and make sure that everybody gets what they need. So you can't call me up and say, Cindy, I need this, or Bear or Jeanette. I'm going to say,
Or
go
me.
out to the IMS page and fill out the form, because that's what we pull down. So make sure that once you get your materials, you can't order until you get your materials, but once you get them and have it inventoried, you can go ahead and put in an order. Now, we are hoping that there is less of an issue this year that we had last year. The EOCs were very problematic last year because not everybody got them ordered. I ordered for all EOCs this year. So you will probably get EOC tests for kids that maybe aren't going to test until next year. That's okay. But we wanted to make sure that there was a lot less of you guys traveling back and forth to the district office to pick those materials up. So we were trying to really tighten that up, because I don't like that you guys are having to come down to pick them up. But there was no way for us to get a driver. I'd love to have, a whole host of FedEx drivers there just standing by, and I could get them to deliver. But unfortunately, I couldn't get that by the budget office. So just be aware that, you do need to come pick up your additional orders because you've got to sign for them. But we're hoping that gets a lot less than what you had to order last year. Okay, district coordinator, what's sometimes called the DACO box, district coordinator only box. We no longer take those back. You will see that talked about when you start packing up your materials. And I'm not going to spend a huge time on this packing up because we're going to be sending out very detailed instructions when it comes time to pack all this back up. But now you will be uploading your security documents to the test development site, our SharePoint site. There are directions out on the IMS page, and a very clear document which gives you the how-to. This lets us not have to store the paper for the entire district. It also allows us very easy access to those security documents if we need to get into them. And we do need to get into them periodically throughout the year. So that's why we've started doing this. A lot less movement of boxes, because sometimes those security documents for a test can get quite large when we talk seating charts and all this other stuff. So again, the document guide will let you know what you have to upload, the directions for scanning and uploading the documents, and the directions for storing the security documents at your school, the actual hard copy. If you have any problems with that, double check. If you are not your school's regular test coordinator, check with them because they've been doing this all year for various tests. Okay, the loading of student responses. Appendix A provides for directions for uploading and return of the student response documents. After you scan those student response documents, do not place them back into the student booklet. They are to be placed in an envelope with the cover sheet on the front of the envelope. These envelopes will be picked up with the not to be scored materials. And again, they should not be placed in the not to be scored box. So you will have a box of not to be scored materials and then those student response booklets in a separate envelope. And again, we'll talk about this much more at depth through emails and some, one-page documents to help you out with this process once you get through to this. After testing, you're going to gather, verify, and stack all your materials. Gather together all materials, including the test books, the response booklets, passage booklets, cutout cards, cutout strips, everything goes back. You don't keep anything at your school of the actual testing materials. Then at that point, you want to verify that you've got everything back that you got. You definitely want to hang on to your packing list and make sure that you've got it there for, so you can check against it. And if you get any additional, just simply pencil them in on that packing list so that you can make sure that that's what you were returning at the end of the window. And again, if anything is missing, you give us a call immediately and we'll help you through the process of documenting if you cannot find it. Before you return your materials, there's a test materials count form that's included with your materials. And then make sure you place the materials in the booklets according to the graphic here. Please don't get creative with this process. It really helps them monitor excuse me. And it helps them make sure that as they're pulling stuff out and documenting that you've returned everything, if it's in this order, chances are they will make sure they get it and you get accounted for everything you turn back. If you have everything thrown in, all jumbled up, what are the chances that they might miss something as they're scanning it back in? A lot greater. So please, do make sure you don't get creative on this, just follow the graphic and get those in. There's minimal amount of sorting you have to do. They don't have to be in alphabetical order, but you do need to make sure that you've got, 5 of this and 5 of that and whatever the numbers are, and then put them in the box. And again, you get a school return label. You do need to make sure this is on the top of your box before you send it back. And don't get too, about this packing up process. We'll send you lots of information before you actually get to that part of the process. And that's the end of mine. Any questions? I know that was a lot of stuff. Again, this is not, my part of it is just mostly that managing of the materials. If you have any questions about the art system and doing that, please give us a call. You need materials or you have questions about your materials, by all means, give us a call. Rochelle and Bear and I work very, very closely together and along with the other folks on her team. So just be aware that, we're here to help you out. We know that working with your kids is a challenge, and testing them is even a greater challenge. But, it's something we need to get through, and my job is to do the piece that I do to make sure and to help you get through that. So again, don't hesitate to give us a call. We're there to help you. Any questions? Who needs coffee? Thank you, guys.
We still have more to,
Oh, yeah, it's not over yet.
okay. I'm sorry. Real quick, we'll switch.
I want to go there.
I know. That is Big Sur, California. It's amazing. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys, for being patient. Okay, whoops. Just to reiterate about ordering materials, please don't call me or email me about materials. The materials all go through Cindy Lander's office. And it really has to be that order form that she does online. It's like a Google Doc, and it goes straight to their office, and they will get the materials. I know sometimes there's a delay in waiting on them letting you know that they're available, but they're trying to kind of get on top of that too. So hopefully that won't take too long. When she talks about the template, it's the writing template, and we're going to look at that a little bit later today, what that writing template is that has to be uploaded and then put in an envelope and go back to the state. Okay. Katie Boyd is our new senior administrator. You remember June Sellers, Dr. Sellers? She used to come and do this. She is now in Connecticut. We miss her terribly, but we have Katie Boyd as our new administrator, and she's been great. But if you have other questions about the assessment and more specific to the testing, please contact me or Jenna Horton. And her email is virginia.horton. Also, I have Bonnie Siegel and Nicole Como are also both in the office with us that work with teachers that are administering alternate assessments. So all 4 of us can help you with any questions that you have. And so we are really the ones that handle any questions specific to the test itself. So if your teacher sits down and isn't sure how to present an item, or whether they're supposed to scaffold, or something about an accommodation with the assessment, please call us. That's what we're here for, and we will help with that issue. Also, anything having to do with participation criteria, whether a student is even appropriate to be taking alternate assessment. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute, but we handle all of those issues. Just wanted to tell you that if you're not familiar with the FSAA program, there are two assessments. There's the FSAA performance task, which is what today is all about. And then there's the data folio. We have a very small percentage of students that participate in data folio, and we'll look just briefly at that, just as an overview to let you know what that is. Just some highlights about FSAA. Math and ELA are fully aligned to the Florida Standards access points and access courses. So any student that's participating in FSAA should be enrolled in access courses. There is a writing design this year that is passages read to a student, and then questions are asked about it. And then there's an open response template. And we'll look at that in just a little bit, just to give you an idea of what that's like. But the teachers have all been through training, and they should be well aware of that. And of course, exams include civics this year, 7th grade, anyone in middle school. There was some confusion last year when civics was new, and it is fully aligned to that 7th grade course of Access Civics. So all students in 7th grade should be taking the Access Civics EOC. And even though this is not exactly the end of the year, this is when they will take those EOCs. And so we also have EOCs for Access Algebra, Access Geometry, Access Biology, and Access US History. And all of those courses are in high school. The performance task is a test that's administered to students individually. The teacher works with the student, asks questions, and has a response booklet where the student's able to choose typically from 3 response options, 3 or 4. It's designed to show mastery of the Florida Standards access points and the Next Generation Sunshine State Standards access points for science and social studies. Students use their primary mode of communication to answer questions. So whether they be looking at the answer, touching the answer, saying the answer. So it really depends on the student's mode of communication and how the teacher works with that student in their daily instruction. It's not a time test, doesn't have to be given on a certain day. The students, the teachers have been trained that they're to do each student individually and to think about how they respond best, whether they need to respond to 5 items at a time or 1 or 2 items at a time, and then take a break and have another student. So we kind of see it as a rotation in your classroom, that they're going to pull students, do a few items, then bring them back to the group, and then pull another student, do a few items, bring them back to the group, okay? So that whole management is going to be, an issue with your testing materials, because we'll look at that in just a minute, but some of the materials do have to be shared among teachers. The auxiliary kit, they don't get their own, they only get their own test booklet. But I will show you that. Okay. Just an overview of data folio. It's for the students with the most severe and profound cognitive disabilities. There is a checklist that teachers have to go through on, during an IEP team meeting to determine whether data folio or performance task is the most appropriate for a student. Okay, it is designed to show progress on a continuum of access toward the academic content rather than mastery of the content. So a goal is set, the student, the baseline data is taken back in September, and then the teacher decides on a goal for that student as far as what type of assistance the student will need. And then it's a process of fading away that assistance and how much you're able to fade away. We only have 55 students in Orange County that are participating in data folio. So it's a very, very small portion of students. And before a student would go on data folio, we would want them to have participated first in the Florida Standards Alternate Assessment Performance Task, just to see if how they are able to respond and if they could. And then if you have a year or a couple years with no growth and, below a certain level, then we could look at data folio. Okay, so they take work samples through, yes? I never say never, but it would be really rare, a case like that. But, we do, it's a possibility. Yes.
What happens if it's on the IEP and you're not aware and you haven't done these 3 collection periods and you haven't done the free stuff and you realize you've got a kid on data?
Then you'll have to put that student on performance task. All students have to be assessed.
So then you
So
have to amend the IEP.
you would have to amend the IEP, change it, and put the student on performance task, yes. So, yeah, at the beginning of the year is when we ask whether we have students that are on data folio. Actually, we ask at the end of the year before because the teachers attend training in Tampa. It's like a 1.5-day training where Measured Progress put them up at a hotel, and it's a very intensive day and a half of training. And so they would have to have participated in that. We do a shortened version in the beginning of the year in September. This year it got thrown off because of the hurricane. But it's not as good as what they do, and so we really try to get teachers to come to that summer training. But yeah, if you don't have a teacher that's trained and nobody took data, then the student has to be assessed with performance task. Okay. So just to talk briefly about the student that would be assessed via FSAA. First of all, now is not the time to change a student from taking the general assessment FSA that all students would normally take. But we probably during the beginning of the year or last year, whenever, there was an IEP team decision made to exempt certain students from taking FSA. And that is determined by your IEP team looking at those 3 questions and as a team deciding whether the student should participate in FSA or FSAA, whether they have a significant cognitive disability and they need that modified curriculum in the the student really needs that intensive, direct instruction in all areas, all academic areas, not a student that, well, they're performing well in math, but they're not performing well in ELA. So, that would not be a student with a significant cognitive disability. So we really take that decision very seriously. That's a decision that shouldn't be made lightly. It should not be a student in K1, 2 at that young age. That is not the time to change that student's, you're changing that student's path. because they're going to be learning at a much reduced rate of instruction. They're not going to get that rigorous instruction that they would get in the general ed classroom. We want to keep kids in that general ed setting as long as possible and forever if we can. The access points are setting neutral, and we now have students that are learning access points alongside their general ed peers in general ed classrooms. The teacher can be teaching the access points right along with the gen ed standards, because the access points are directly aligned to those gen ed standards. And we have more and more parents that want their children instructed in the least restrictive environment. And we all know, we all learned that in college, LRE, they want to go to their home schools and play with their neighborhood friends and be instructed with their neighborhood friends. And we have it happening throughout Orange County. We have new kids coming in every day. So, somebody could come to your school, knock you on the door, and the parents want them in gen ed, and that's what we have to do. We have to provide that instruction. And it's really exciting to see our kids being instructed in those settings and learning alongside their peers. So if you have questions about whether a student should be exempt from FSA, please give us a call. We'd be happy to talk with you about that and help work you through that process. There's also that's our questions. There's a assessment planning resource guide for the IEP team. This is on the FSAA portal. I'm going to show you the portal in just a little bit to show with some screenshots. There's a lot of stuff on that portal that is really good and helpful information, not just for now during testing, but this is the guide put out by the DOE to help IEP teams decide about alternate assessment and to look at datafolio versus performance task. And there's a flow chart, there's examples of test items in there. So it's a really good guide. Who should administer the alternate assessment? It should be the student's teacher, that person that works the most with the student. If the student's included in a gen ed classroom and there's an ESC teacher providing some support, the ESC teacher could be the one that is administering, but the teacher is the most likely person. If that's not possible, a speech clinician or a behavior specialist, hearing impaired teacher, any of those could be trained to administer and administered the assessment, as long as they know the student and know the student's mode of communication. If you have a long-term sub placed in a classroom, that person can also attend training and could administer the assessment. Paraprofessionals cannot administer. It's not allowed, cannot be a paraprofessional. Also, if a teacher has a family member in their class, they cannot administer to a family member. We have a couple of situations like that in Orange County, and we have a speech person and a behavior person that's administering to that family member. So just be aware of that. You all would know, I don't know so much where all kids are that might be in a family member's classroom, but you would know that. So that's a big rule. Okay, so there was required training for the teachers. Every year, even though teachers may have attended a face-to-face in the past, they have to do an update. The update can be via an online modules, plural, there's 3 of them, or they can come to face-to-face training. I have sent out reports of teachers that have participated in the modules. Have everybody received those? What's not on there are teachers that have attended training. So it's just a list of teachers that have participated in the modules. If they've attended training, I have them on my sign-in sheets, and we don't have a big spreadsheet of that list. But if you have a question about whether your teacher has attended, email us and we will look that up for you. Yes?
If they've attended, you filled out meeting points,
Yes?
would it be on their record there, you can go there and look?
I wish I was that on top of things. They have not been submitted yet. So we kind of submit it all at the end after we've done everything, so. And it doesn't say FSAA on the, it's like curriculum and instruction and assessment, so. Yeah, I know, they're not submitted yet, but I can look them up. I mean, if you're, most people, most teachers we trust to do what they say that they've done, but I can look them up on sign-in sheets. If they know the date they attended, that would help. Yes. No, it's not. Okay, I'm getting there. Okay. Okay, we're gonna have one more training, it looks like, on February 23rd. So write that down. We have not sent that out yet. We haven't posted it yet, but we have, I believe, 3 teachers that need to attend. If you have any teachers that need training, that will be the final. Right, Jenna? You're not gonna let me have another one. Yes.
There are questions about, I mean, in my campus, our staff is kind of tenuous.
Yeah. Tenuous?
Yeah, yeah. So, but we may have a perm sub or if I can lay hands on that person, should I send them to that training?
Yeah, if you have a firm sub, like the sub, yes, is, gonna be there for a month, yes, send that person. Okay, so the first 3 modules are up and available, but module 4 is not yet available. See, I think it says, mid-February. What's today? Okay, any day now. I think this happened last year and it wasn't available till the beginning of March. It should be a little quicker this year because it just goes quicker every year. So as soon as it is available, I will send out notification to everybody. The thing is, they don't need to watch it so early because they're gonna forget things in it. The 4th module is all about inputting into the online system. Okay, so they're not gonna start inputting in the system until after they've tested their students. They don't need to be in that system yet. And that's why y'all have time to get those names in and assign the test, the teacher to the student, however that works. But the teachers, they want to log in and see their kids. But that's really all they could do because they have to test them first before they try inputting anything, okay? So we can tell them when we have done this, simmer down, okay? All right, and if I need to tell anyone to simmer down, I can do that, yes. Well, we did make a deadline, I think wait, do I have it in my notes? Yeah, I mean, our deadline really is that they do it before they start entering students in. But we might have said March 15th. Like, it's probably a 20-minute module. If they do it now, they're not gonna remember, and then they're gonna call you, how do I do this? And that, so it's okay. Okay.
We do like rotation, so all of our students have one teacher for math, one teacher for English. Can you assign a student to multiple teachers?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, you can. You will assign the content area to the teacher, or the content area to the student and the teacher. So yes, high schools can assign different teachers, different content areas. And you can do that in elementary school or middle school if you do it that way, definitely. Okay, so they have some mini tutorials online that will help the teachers. You are also welcome to look at those if you have questions about anything. They're really short and they cover topics like, how to scaffold, how to, whether you point to items or not. They're just really short and brief, and they're helpful. So some of the resources that are online, the procedural manual Cindy talked about. This used to come and everybody got one, but now we get 2 for the whole district. But really, most of what's in here is for the district coordinator. There's a small section that's the school coordinator. And it's about what to do with the materials once they arrive, and inventorying, and how to put everything back in the box. And it has pictures in it and everything. If you use the manual online, if you just download that to your computer, then you can do Control F to find something that you're looking for instead of flipping through all those pages. It's a great thing. I love Control F. So this is the portal. You're gonna wanna bookmark this when you go to the website, save it, put a little star on it, because all I have to do is type F and it comes up automatically, okay? And this portal has, I don't know why this light doesn't work, but yeah, right up here, data folio and performance task. So this has, main information about FSAA, and over here, this is where the link to the reporting system is. Some people have asked me about finding out their students' scores from last year. That's a great idea. The reports did come to schools, but you can look up students, and the principals are the ones that have the login information. But if you need to get into that, you can call me and I can give you their login information so that you can get in and look at student reports. So there's that link. And then after you click the performance task, that far arrow points to teacher resources. In the middle, it says AAC / district trainer resources, and then FSAA online system. So the FSAA online system, that's the link that Cindy was showing you earlier, and she said HTTP Florida Tau Cloud. That's a link to it, so you don't have to remember that website. It'll take you directly to the Tau Cloud, and that's where you'll log in with your login information. So you can always go back to the FSAA portal to get you there. And so the AAC District Trainer Resource page, that's where a lot of the resources that will be helpful for you as the SLC. And the SLC stands for School Level Coordinator, so we kind of did SLC / FSAA Coordinator. That the system calls you an SLC, but in the county we call you FSAA Coordinator, so that's why we did it that way. But a lot of the documents that are here are ones that we have talked about. The procedural manual is there. The TAM, that's the Test Administration Manual. All teachers should have received this. We sent them out back in October, I believe. Did everybody get them? Did someone not get them? Anybody? Okay, awesome. Yep, and if all your teachers were new, they got them at training. Okay, so any new teacher received theirs at training. We had them sent to schools based on teachers that were trained in previous years. Okay, if anybody needs one, we do have some extra copies, so let me know and I can send those out in the courier. Okay, on that same page with the district resources and SLC resources, as you scroll down, there are these training modules. Now, they're kind of long and dry, but they'll help you with some of the tasks that you need to do. Like, let me see what they're. Online system overview of terms is one of them. Register, update, and manage school level accounts. You don't need that one because you're not managing the SLC accounts. That's Cindy Landers doing that. You're not going to manage those. Register, update, and manage teacher accounts. That would be a good one to watch. Submit and manage update requests. So your teachers can submit an update request within the online system, and you won't get an email about it. It'll be on within the system. It's gonna say, 3 requests or something. And you'll have to go into that to see that they've asked you a question about something, or they've said somebody's name spelled wrong in the system, or maybe you assigned a math and they really are doing ELA for that student. So they might send you an update request that way. You can work with your teachers and say, don't send me update requests, just tell me or just email me. And that's fine too, but there is a way that you can, this will help you to manage it and kind of keep track of who's sent you requests about things. Because the update requests, it clears once you handle whatever the issue is, and then it'll be green. It won't be red anymore. So it's another way to see, oh God, I'm taking care of 20 update requests in a week. Then you can go to your principal and say, look at how hard I work. I don't know. We get those update requests too. So if they send an update request via the system, sometimes it comes to us directly at the district, but it'll go to you if it's just an issue about a student, like changing a grade or changing a test. Since you're assigning the test to the student and teacher, it'll only come to me if it's a bigger issue. And I'm gonna watch that video when it comes out just to make sure about that, and I'll send out an email just to kind of reiterate about the update requests. Okay? Also, if a student has to be transferred from one school to another, there's a video on how to do that as well. I don't think you can transfer students. I would have to transfer students Terry's telling me yes. Okay, good. I have to do that at the district level. You just have to tell me that that's an issue. And you can also submit an update request. And we do prefer that instead of sending emails, you submit an update request through the system, because that's how we track all of what we're doing. Okay, so Cindy gave you the dates. And I'm gonna give you dates again, and mine are a little bit different. So I would trust Cindy, don't trust me. Yeah, so she has the pickup of materials on May 1st. So we wanna make sure that happens, and the important date of not being able to enter into the system any later than April 13th. What happened last year with some teachers is they waited until Friday, April 13th, to do all of their students and get them into the system. What do you think's wrong with that? Like, that teacher had an issue and couldn't get all her kids uploaded into the system. So I would back that date up that you tell your teachers and tell them they've got to start uploading. Now there's a way for you to see they're 25% done, they're 50% done, they're 100% done. So that's a good thing. It'll help us, helps me to keep on track and say, hey, Susie Johnson hasn't tested any of her kids yet. You got to get on top of them then and say, we got to get going on this. Okay, of course, there's always issues, I know. Hi, yeah.
We're not getting tests for the high school until after
No, you don't. You don't have a large testing window. So the materials are arriving at the district before spring break, and then Cindy says she can't send them out until after. My hope is that they'll come really early in that week, and she'll go ahead and let them be delivered. And I'm gonna suggest that, but we can't, she has to plan all these deliveries ahead of time. And so, yeah, you're gonna have to have your teachers start testing right away, as soon as they come back from spring break. High school's gonna be really short. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, so. Same dates, okay, and again, they have till the 27th, but last year they did extend that window. I think it was elementary that got extended, but those students did not get scores until the fall. So just be aware of that I like to say there's not gonna be any extension at all. And I would back your date up and get your teachers to get it in by the Monday of that week, because it takes them time to input. That's gonna take time. Okay, just a few highlights. We are still paper-based. I don't know why that's a highlight, because I think it's a low light. Need to get it, but whatever. So the teacher completes the assessment on paper in the test booklet. They're gonna mark in the test booklet, and then after, when the student is not there, they're going to input what this student got into the online system, okay? And they have to go in one by one and put in the student response. No teacher is allowed to have their students sit in front of the computer and administer with the student sitting there on the computer. And this year, they took away the picture, and everything is not gonna be there. It's only gonna be the answer option. So last year, the test itself was exactly the same on the computer. So that's a change that they made. So I don't think it'll be as easy to be tempted to do that. But just so that you all know, there's no administering to students on the computer itself, and they shouldn't even be around when you're inputting into the system. Teachers can do that at a later date. They can do all their assessments, sign their things in and out, do 2 weeks of testing, and not even be in the system yet. Okay? Just so that you're aware, there are 3 different sessions in the assessment. Session 1 is the first 16 items. Session 2 is just 3 items. And then session 3 is part of ELA in 4th through 10th grade, and that's the writing prompts. And just some content changes. There is civics and US history this year. And the ELA and math is, some items that are in 4th grade might also be in 5th grade. Some items in 6th grade may also be in 7th grade. So they've linked some of the content there, and teachers shouldn't think like something's wrong with the assessment. Okay, Cindy showed you that this year there's 2 forms for elementary and middle school, A and B. I think last year we had like all the way through F, so it'll make it a lot easier to manage. And then there's 4 forms for high school, A through D. So when I say that, your test booklet, whatever test booklet is assigned a student, each student will get 1 test booklet, and you have 1 for everybody. But then you have the auxiliary kit, which are these separate materials. There's might be some cutout cards and strips, the response book, and there's a passage book for ELA, but I don't have that with me. So those kits need to match. If you did A with your test booklet, you need to do A with your auxiliary kit. Some items may be the same in both A and B, but there's some that are different. So you need to make sure that the teacher has all of A or all of B or C or D. Okay, we said that we're fully aligned to the Access courses. There are blueprints on the FSAA portal that'll tell you which access points that are in the course are being assessed on the FSAA. Those are also on the scope and sequences, which are on the IMS. So every course that your students are enrolled in has a scope and sequence. And the access points that are assessed on FSAA have a little diamond by them. The access points with diamonds are the ones that are going to be assessed. So hopefully the teachers have covered those throughout the school year. Content areas assessed are very familiar, should be same as FSA. So you can look to see what grade level and what content areas would be assessed. The only thing that's different is high school, and that is dependent upon the courses that the students are in. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So for the EOCs, we have EOCs in Access Algebra, Access Geometry, Biology, U.S. History, and Civics. And those EOCs are normally given at the same time that FSAA is given. But we do have some students that maybe the IEP team has determined at the beginning of the year that that student is going to need 2 years in that course. Access courses can be taken for a total of 2 years. If the student needs that extra time to be able to cover all of the access points and show progress in the access points. So it's not at the end of the year or at testing time, you say, oh, shucks, I think we're just gonna defer this for him. I don't wanna give this test, so I'm gonna defer it. Okay, it really has to be a plan that, because most students are okay to just take Algebra 1 and take that throughout the year and take their test at the end of the year and then go to geometry the next year. Next year they take geometry, they spend all year in geometry, and they take their EOC at the end of the year. And they need how many credits? 4 math credits? 3 math credits? Same as gen ed. So you just want to make sure that, that's been a determination that's made ahead of time. There is a way to indicate in the assessment online system that the student is not going to take an EOC, the student's going to defer. And there's a drop-down menu on the main page of the student. Like you click on the student, and then it says reason not assessed. So you would fill that in or have the teacher, actually the teacher would complete that. You would assign the teacher to all those courses, and that teacher would have to say that the student deferred the assessment, or you deferred, however. But this is going to be your way of keeping track too, so that if a student did take geometry and he's going to take it for 2 years, you know that next year he has to take geometry again so that he can take the EOC. And Cindy Landers ordered EOCs for all students in those courses. So you will receive materials for all students in all of those EOC courses. So you're probably going to get a lot more than you need. Last year, we didn't have enough. Everybody had to order those individually, and a lot of people didn't order, and so they didn't have materials. This year it was ordered for everybody. Okay, I'd just like to throw in that there is also something called CFEs, the Common Final Exams. I don't have anything to do with them. But I just, sometimes people get the CFEs confused with EOCs because they used to be called EOCs. So it's natural that you would confuse that. But the common final exams were written by teachers, and they're for all areas that aren't assessed with FSAA. Okay? There's rubrics on the IMS. And those rubrics, the teacher fills in based on the data that they've collected throughout the school year. And then that has to get submitted. That's later in the year, more like EOC time, but CFE time. The people that are over the CFEs are Michelle Paul and Casey Liebersat. Those would be the people to call if you have questions about CFEs. Michelle Paul and Casey Liebersat. Okay. And they're very nice people. They'll help you. Just so that you know, there are 3 tasks in an item. So it's called the item set design. Each student starts at task 1, and then if they're in session 1, they're going to move to task 2 and task 3 if they answer correctly. So there's kind of a different way to administer session 2, but your teachers have been trained in all this, and if they have questions, they just need to call us. We'll help them. Okay. Okay, so just to show you, I think I sort of did already, but there's a test booklet that all students will get their very own. And so when the student gets their test booklet, it's going to have all of their content areas in it. So if it's a third grade student, it's going to have ELA, and then it's going to have math. And it's going to tell you there's a table of contents right in the front, and it'll tell you what page everything is on. Okay, the students could do math before they do ELA. They don't have to do it in order, but what they do have to do in order is they have to do session 1 first, then session 2, and then session 3. And the teachers do know that. There's a cutout cards and strips packet. And this one is not exactly cut out, but you may get a packet where there's cards like this, and the students have to sort through different cards. And that will be shrink wrapped in a container. And the response booklet looks like this. And so there might be a stimulus picture here and 3 response options below it. Okay. There's also a passage book, and I didn't bring that, but the passage book has passages and pictures that go with it. That's what the test booklet looks like. They're going to be color-coded by grade, just kind of makes it easier to put it all together, back together at the end, and keep track of things. In that test booklet, you have the content standards that are being assessed. The item tables are in there. The administration instructions for the teacher, that's in the teacher will column. Okay, that teacher script column also gives them directions. And this is what the item table looks like. It's task 1, task 2, and task 3. You can see the first column is materials, so the teacher knows what materials they need. The second column is the teacher script, and also has the teacher directions. And then the final column is the student response column. And this is where the teacher will mark how the student does on the assessment. And they'll keep track of that. They can write notes in this test booklet. This test booklet is only for one student. They can take notes. They might want to write things down to put on the online survey at the end of the assessment. After they administer to all their students, FSAA has an online questionnaire that they can ask them questions, and that way they can give input on certain items that maybe the wording they didn't like the way it was worded, it was confusing to their students. But this way they have the test there to look at when they're doing that. Okay, so when we talk about the auxiliary kit, that is the kit that has the response book, the passage book, the cutout cards and strips. You'll get one of those for every 4 students at a grade level. Okay, so if you have students in different classes, those 2 teachers may have to share those materials. Okay, but remember you have a Form A and a Form B too. So some students will get Form A, some will get Form B. So you'll have to share and make sure that you've got the right kit with the right students. Okay, this is just showing the response book. Okay, that's an example. Okay, passage book. Okay, this is the flow chart that the teachers will use when they're administering. We have recommended that they laminate this so that they have it while they're assessing and they can follow along the flow chart. There's also 2 little videos on the FSAA portal that with a student that is being assessed, and it shows them how to go through the flow chart, how they're gonna ask the questions. Okay. Teachers are able to scaffold at that task 1 level. So scaffolding is the process of reducing the response options to make it easier for the student to answer. You're reducing the response options by covering up the incorrect response. We only do that 1 time with FSAA. In the past, with FAA, we covered 2 times. But so now the new way to do it is just 1 time. There's 2 response options, and you repeat the prompt to the student. Okay, any questions about the actual administering, please call us or let us know. The teachers should know that. Because session 1 and session 2 are administered differently, the test booklet will have a big stop sign and a session 2 sign letting the teacher know that they're administering in a different way. What happens with session 2 is they're to administer all 3 tasks to the student, whether they answer correctly or not. So the teacher has to administer task 2 and task 3. So that's why they really want to let them know this is different. What's going to happen if they don't administer task 2 and task 3? When they go to enter it into the system is going to be waiting for task 2, the answer to task 2, and the teacher won't be able to move on within the online system. So then they'll have to go back and get all that testing material back and test task 2 and task 3. And that's really not the way they're supposed to do it. They really need to do it in order. So that's gonna, kind of throws things off. But, so just make sure you kind of talk to them to make sure that they're doing that. They also highlighted at the top to administer all 3 tasks to the student. Just to give you a brief overview of the writing prompt, the prompts are designed to assess the student's ability to compose a product in response to text. So a passage is read to the student, and then questions are asked about the passage. They're only in 4th through 10th grade. And there's a prompt 1, which is just 5 questions that are asked about the passage. And then prompt 2 is more of an open response that's asking them to complete it, but with assistance from the teacher using whatever their primary mode of communication is. I'll show you a couple examples. Oh, we said this about the sequence. Prompt 1, this is prompt 2. So the open response prompt is more that the teacher is helping the student to complete a writing template, and the template looks like, I dropped it. No, it's gone. Okay, we'll see a picture of it in just a minute. So students are able to respond in whatever their primary mode of communication is. Some students use a communication device, and that those words can be programmed into their device, and they can put words together to make sentences or phrases that would go in the template. Some students you might just lay out pictures and the student's able to point to pictures to answer. This is a big array. The student would really have to be able to choose from a lot of pictures. Sometimes we have students that only will choose one word, so the first word in a sentence from an array of 3, and then they'll choose the second word from another array of 3. You should have at least 3 response options for the student, and some of those options should be incorrect options. They can't all be correct. This is what the template looks like. How I lost it, but this is the official record of the student's response, and it does have to be returned. It has to be cut out. It is in the back of the test booklet. So each test booklet, in the beginning when I said the table of contents is here, writing will be on here, and it will tell you what page the template is on. So the very last page, here's our template, and the teacher has to cut that out because the teacher has to turn that in for that student, even if they don't write on it, because some students may type on a computer or on a device. Okay, there may be a teacher that's annotating or scribing for the student. The teacher can scribe and write in the template, or the teacher can put that directly into the online system. Okay. But no matter what, the template has to be returned. And, okay, so Cindy talked about the envelope. It'll go in an envelope, and there's a cover sheet, and that's all. I know she'll give you all that information later in the assessment window, but the student name needs to be on the template and his FLE ID. That's a new thing, the FLE ID, not the student number. This is just an example of a student that wrote and then the teacher annotated. So it's a little hard to read, but the title is night, the word NITE, and then the next word is NLS. And the teacher annotated animals on top of it because she knew the student meant animals. Then NLS again, and BIZ is what the next word is, and the teacher annotated busy. And then at night is pretty understandable to somebody that doesn't know the student. So you see how she's annotating, the teacher is annotating the words that would not be recognizable to someone that doesn't know the student, okay? And so the student's gonna get credit for that based on a rubric that they have, and they have some people that are trained to score these assessments. So the teacher doesn't have to score it or decide how the student did. That'll be scored by somebody with measured progress. And spelling is not scored, no language conventions, nothing like that. It's really about the content. So it really is finding out what the student can communicate and getting that in there. So sometimes students are looking at or pointing to pictures, And the teacher would write, the student pointed to the picture of a bat. Okay. Okay, then the student gave no response to the second part. No response to the third part. No response to the fourth or the fifth. Okay, so some students may not be able to respond, but for each area of the template, you have to fill in. So it has to be presented to all students. For high school and some 8th grade, so some 8th grade assessments will look like this, but all of high school will. There will be an outline first and then an open page where the outline then has to be transferred to. And the teacher would need to assist the student as needed, to transfer the items into the bigger lined paper. So in this example, the title, the teacher wrote that the student verbalized, "Uniforms are no good, wear what you want." So the student verbalized this. He didn't write with a paper and pencil. He didn't point to pictures. He was able to verbally tell the sentence to the teacher, and the teacher wrote in that space. The second area, and my topic is clothes. My claim is I should get to wear what I want. Then I don't want to look like others. Tan is boring. Uniforms are boring. Okay, he said all that. And then the teacher helps him to transfer by saying, well, what should go here? And what's the next sentence? And she can point to it and then write in. And she wrote in, the student verbalized, wear what you want. I get to wear the clothes I want. I don't want to look like other kids. Tan is boring, uniforms are boring. Okay? This is the student was gesturing towards the answers. That means he was pointing towards pictures, and the pictures were, I should have worn my glasses today. Student pointed to pictures of good, clothes happy, good grades, clothes ugly, uniforms boring. Okay, so some of the choices were of those words, but then some were not those words. They would be things that wouldn't be correct, wouldn't make a correct sentence. You can see it doesn't have to be a full sentence. It's what they're able to communicate. And using the types of pictures or the type of communication device that they're using on a daily basis in their daily instruction. Okay? Then the teacher took this and transferred into the online system. So there's a blank space in that system where you can either type directly in or you can upload that response template. Okay, so the teacher has been trained in how to do this, sort of. I mean, the online module 4 is going to help them. Teach them how to do this, but we've talked about it in training, and if they watch the 3 modules, it talks about this. But they can take that template and upload it, save it as a PDF or a JPEG, and then upload it into the system at this time in the assessment. But then the actual template has to get turned in. That's a secure document. So we have to turn that back to the state. So there are some form-specific vocabulary words that haven't come out yet, but they will come out when they get their tests. And so they need to be able to look at those ahead of time to know whether they need to make any special word cards for their students. They have some students that, may be able to write, or they're able to type on a computer, and that's great. They should be able to use whatever their their best mode of communication is. Maybe verbalizing is their best way and having the teacher be the scribe. Okay, but in any case, they do need to see the test booklets before they're actually assessing students. So we also created some visual supports to help support the teachers, because the test itself doesn't come with any pictures. The thing is that they want the students using whatever their primary mode of communication is. And so some students use board maker pictures. Some students are very familiar with PEC symbols. Some students are more familiar with line drawings or real photographs. Some students are using symbol sticks. We created some just for practice using symbol sticks, because all students should have access to symbol stick. All teachers have access to unique learning, and symbol sticks is on a part of unique learning. They also have access to board maker. So you really should use the types of pictures that your students are used to. But we created some just kind of for practice, and they're welcome to use them to practice with. When the assessment comes out, they may need to make additional pictures. We just thought of types of words that might be used, and they might have to have some more very specific words that would need to be made. But it's a Google folder. I've sent it out to all the teachers. If you need access to it, just let me know and I can send you access. And if you have teachers that don't remember getting my email, then just send me an email and I will send that out. So after administration, that template gets turned in to the assessment department. They collect those writing samples in an envelope. So when you have your box of not to be scored materials, on the outside of your box, there will be an envelope with a cover sheet that says writing template. And that cover sheet is available on their portal, the IMS portal. Later in the assessment, if you need that, just email me and we'll get that out to you. But everybody should have access to that. And the envelope does not go in the box of not to be scored materials. The envelope is outside of the box because the not to be scored materials go back to the DOE, but the writing templates get stored at the district somewhere. Yeah. So there's accommodations that the students are allowed. It's really based on their daily instruction, what accommodations they have in their daily instruction. Because we're talking about students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, they're allowed all accommodations that they're allowed in their instruction. It's not like FSA where they can't have accommodations on the test. They can only have certain things. They're allowed everything because they have the most significant cognitive disabilities. We want to allow them to be able to show what they know, and they can't show it, without being able to have whatever they have in their daily instruction. If you have any questions about any accommodations, please call me. They can use assistive technology, they can use an abacus, they can use a calculator, all of those types of things. So please, we want our students to be able to show what they know and give them whatever they need to be successful on the assessment. Okay, there's specific accommodations that are available for students with limited physical ability, visual impairments, hearing impairments, and English language learners. And these are all in the back of the TAM, the Teacher Administration Manual, which the teachers all have. If you have questions about any of that, let us know. Yes?
I know my 8th grade teacher said that calculators were allowed for the 8th graders, but they were not allowed for the 7th graders. Is that not true?
No, that's not true. Not true at all. Yeah, calculators, number lines, whatever they use in their daily instruction, they can have in their assessment. Yep, all grades. So the teachers do need access to those test booklets ahead of time. Sometimes we're used to FSA where they're not allowed to read everything ahead of time, but these teachers for these students are allowed to read it ahead of time. They might need to highlight the script. They might want to make notes in that to help them. So they need to have access to that. There's a list of cards and strips and teacher gather materials that they may need to gather, and that's all in the test booklet. So there's some times that they might need some teacher gather materials that aren't available in the test, but they're things that you should be able to find in your daily school, like paper, pencils, rulers, cups, things like that. Nothing too hard, but you want them to be able to be prepared to administer and have all of their materials with them ready to go. There's an object exchange list for some students that may have visual impairments or those visually related accommodations that they need. A student with low cognitive ability that is at the object exchange or real object level and not able to look at pictures and be able to answer questions based on pictures, they need real objects substituted. So there is a list of objects that can be substituted. And then there is writing topics. Those topics are available now so that teachers can start practicing ahead of time. Okay, that's different from FSA where the topics aren't released until the test so that, nobody can prepare ahead of time. These students need that time to prepare. It's okay. They're allowed to have the topics. They're allowed to work on those things ahead of time because we're talking about students with a significant cognitive disability. Okay. Okay, Cindy talked about accounting for the materials. Accurate administration, of course, is important. Recording in the test book, we talked about that. The teacher taking notes. And the security, of course. She talked about teachers actually losing their license because of issues. And I can say that I know of a teacher that lost her license because of how she was administering the assessment. So, it's very, very serious. They can take breaks. You want to continue with whatever behavior management program the teacher has going on in the classroom. If the student's used to working for 5 minutes and then getting a break, they should have that. They're used to working for one item and getting a break, they should have that. Whatever the student is used to in their daily instruction, they should get. Okay, we said about how they would be putting it on the computer when they're done. So there is a online system user guide that will help you in how to manage that online system. It's good for you as the SLC, but also for the teacher. There's a teacher one that hasn't come out yet, and then there's the coordinator one. It's 200 pages, so I wouldn't print it. It's because it has lots of screenshots from within the system. I would download it to your computer, and if you're looking for an answer to a question, Control F and put in your question, whatever it is. Okay? There's lots and lots of information in that online user guide, and I haven't even gone through all of mine yet. It's crazy. It's really big. But that's where it really tells you how to work the system. Some of the common errors that happened last year, sometimes the wrong form was assigned. The teacher did not select A, B, C, or D, or all the way to F, and went through the whole assessment and then got to a point, because some of the questions are the same, got to a point where the questions are different. Hopefully they called me at that point and we can reset the assessment. But some teachers just went ahead and finished. They ignored the fact that some of the items were different. They kept doing it and they submitted the test at the end. If that happens, we can't get it back. I have to make a request to the DOE to open up that assessment. It takes like 2 weeks. So if it happens on Friday, April 13th, we won't be able to open that assessment back up. Sometimes a teacher went and inputted the whole test, got to the end, pushed submit, and it was the wrong student. Yeah, I know. So now they have little safeguards, like a window will pop up. Are you sure you want to submit this test? Are you sure? And then and they have to click yes, they're sure. So don't let them click submit until they've checked the whole thing. They can go back, they can re-go through the whole test before they hit submit at the end. Okay, so just make sure that they do that. There also were missing entries and the wrong responses entered into the system. That's probably because they had the wrong form selected. So we recommend that they review before they submit anything. So we've said that the teacher can submit the writing response in 2 ways. They can either upload and save that file and then put that file into the system, or they can type directly into the system, right? So this is just a picture of a teacher that would type this form. Oh, this form is being uploaded. The file, once you upload the file, it has to be deleted from their computer. So they're not allowed to save those for next year so they could compare the tests, or they're not allowed to keep that in their, on their computer. Okay, so this is another, the uploaded template would be in the system with the annotations. The FLE ID should be on that template. Okay, this is if the teacher wanted to type into the system. The teacher's gonna transfer everything that was on the template into the system and type it herself. If there's annotations, then the teacher puts those in parentheses. It doesn't matter what the student's handwriting looks like. They don't need to see their handwriting, they just need to see the letters. So that student that typed NLS for animals, she's gonna write NLS and then in parentheses write animals, okay? The actual printing of NLS doesn't matter to them. Okay, that's what I said. Okay, wait. Oh, so this is a response that wasn't annotated, and it says Dear AEAX, which I'm sure is the name of somebody, but then question 2, USEMEI. It's pretty like a person that doesn't know that student isn't able to figure that out. So you need to make sure to annotate it. There is a district coordinator checklist that will, if you want to see if the teachers are administering with fidelity, it's a checklist that you can use just to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And your administrator has a checklist also. We have some administrators that do walkthroughs and want to just make sure that the you know, the teachers have all their material, it's just something like that. They have all their materials handy, they're not fumbling around to get things. And it just helps them to know what they should be looking for when they're out in the room. These 2 forms are available on the FSAA portal. Okay, so Cindy talked about the art. I think that she's getting those accounts set up today. She said that it will send you an email automatically, so I hadn't read that, but I believe her if that's what she said. So, also, the first password is going to be the same as your username. So she didn't say that, but it doesn't let us put in a password the very first time. So remember how she said it's 48, that's our district code, then your school code, 4 digits, then the first 2 letters of your first name and your last name. That will be the same password the very first time to get in, and then it will prompt you, it'll come right up and say to create a new password. You'll have to create a new password. It has to be 10 digits long. It has to have a capital letter. It has to have a special character. It's ridiculous. Yes?
She put up a slide earlier that the password was Orange County with a capital O at 48.
She did put that up?
And that was our password. And then it would prompt us to change our own.
Yeah, I know. And that was last year's directions, but this year they made it default. They made a big deal about just making the password the same as their username so that we don't have to type in a separate one. I will check on that though. I'll check on it and let you all know. When you set it up, it does have to be long and have all those parameters. And so Orange County with a capital O at 48 is what we used as the general one last year. When you set up your own, if you forget your password, you'll have to call me and I'll reset it. And that's what I'll reset it to. And then you can reset it yourself again, but I'll reset it to that original instead of having to figure out the school code and all that. Okay. So before the teacher can log in to check their class lists, the assignments have to be made. So even if the teachers are in there, unless they're assigned to the student for the test, they're not going to show up. So that is a little process that you guys will have to do. And just call me if you have problems with it, and we'll help you get that done. I know that I'm not sure how much you guys did last year, whether you assigned, I don't think you assigned the test, but you did. Okay, all right, so you've done it before. You're good at it. Who's new? Raise your hand if you're new. Wow. Okay, we'll help you, I promise. Okay, just call us. So we're thinking that early March, they'll get in to verify their roster. I mean, we still have 2 weeks. That there's not like a hard and fast deadline. Obviously, we want them to get in there as soon as possible. If they have a class with 12 kids that they have to assess, it's gonna take them a long time. If they only have 1 or 2 or 3 kids, it's not gonna take as long. But still, they can't wait until April to get into the system. They need to get in before that. So, kind of a happy medium there. So then also, if they have problems, like they're missing students off their list, or kids are assigned the wrong assessment, there has to be time to go back to you to have that reassigned or to come to us if it's a new student from a different district or something like that. Okay, so we really want to get them in there as soon as possible without, we know that everybody is wearing a lot of hats and doing a lot of things. Practice materials, new materials were not provided this year. Teachers that came to training received materials. Teachers that came last year have last year's materials, and they did not provide new materials. However, we did print a lot of the practice materials. And so if anybody needs more practice materials because theirs got destroyed, please email us and we'll send those out because we do have some extra sets. So they really get one set and they have to reuse that. It's about 2 items per content area. They can use grade, if it's 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 5th graders can be assessed on some of those 3rd and 4th grade items. It's not going to hurt them. It's all just practice, and they're items that are not being assessed anymore. Okay, so any old FAA materials from 2008 all the way to 2015 can all be recycled, okay, or thrown out. But they should save those practice materials that they have, the 16, 17 practice materials. Save those because they might have to use them again next year. I don't know if they're going to print more. The Service Center has extended hours available now, all the way through May 4th. The Service Center is good to call if you're stuck in the system and have problems with the system itself. But questions more about accommodations and how students participate and, those probably should come to us, but, you can try asking them. These are just some of the websites. So if you get the link to this PowerPoint, then you can click on those and go directly there. It's the FSAA portal that we talked about, our cognitive disability website where we have a lot of resources. We also have an alternate assessment website. And then RAG, the assessment department, has their alternate assessment website. So funny, I have all of these links in my signature, my email. So you get any emails from me every now and then, right? The links are down there. Just go down and they're there so that you can, I'm going to open it up to questions in 1 second. I just want to put in a plug for Unique Learning. I know you got a blue flyer. And just if you have teachers that have students on access points, you want to make sure that they all have a subscription to Unique Learning because they're in the process at the district of saying that we're not using all of our subscriptions, so they're going to take them away. I know, yeah. So please, if you have a teacher that has multiple grade levels, which, yeah, I hope that there aren't too many like that. But so if you have someone that might need an elementary and an intermediate band, then let us know because we're being more generous now in giving those out. Also, there are going to be a few more trainings coming up. I did not put it in the PowerPoint, but I want you to know. We have teachers that have never attended Access Point training. The Access Point training is the basis of what we're doing. Like the students are learning access points, and then they're being assessed on them via the FSAA. But they need to know about the access points. A lot of teachers say, oh, I've been doing this for years, I don't need that. But the access points have changed. They've changed, and there's more resources that are available to teachers now, and we really want them to attend Access 1.0 and Access 2.0. So a lot of your veteran teachers have said, I don't need to go to training, and they're not coming. And then we see them at some other training, and they're like, what's an access point? Yeah. So, Access 1.0, March 27th and April 10th. And Access 2.0, April 3rd and April 12th. So it will really be the end of the window, may not help them much for this year, but if they're returning next year, you know, it would be a good thing for them to come. Also, the FSAA will be February 23rd. If you have a teacher that's a veteran teacher that doesn't want to do the modules, they can attend that February 23rd training to administer. Now, questions for anybody? Jenna's gonna run around. Look at her, she's a runner.
Yeah, a loper, right? Who was that? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just wanted clarification. There are not going to be any high school materials coming out for the FSAA until after the break. So they can't start early.
Right, yeah. The high school window doesn't even open until March. Okay, it opens when they receive materials.
Okay,
Is-
so they
yes.
don't do the writing ahead of time the way the FSA does. Okay.
No.
I'm going to ask them all at once and
It's okay.
hopefully.
It's all part of ELA. I know.
So, okay, so I saw and I wrote down ELA 1, but there's also the ELA 2 for 10th graders, right?
Yes.
Like it's, okay.
Yes.
New students, like I've already just received a couple of new access students. They're not going to be on your newest list because
Correct.
we haven't even had the transfer meetings.
That's
So I'm contacting you or Cindy to get the books and
You
stuff.
cannot order anything right now until you receive materials
Right.
and you've counted that because what happens is you might have a student that also happened to
Right.
leave and they can use those same materials. They don't have names on them.
Okay.
So once the materials arrive, then you will submit a request via the request form on the IMS website. And that's how you'll request new materials.
Okay. Last question is, I'm working with seniors and I see that some do not on Trace have FSA scores from, so I've got like 12th graders who somehow do not have, I wasn't here then, don't have the 10th grade FSA score, let's say. So are they going to be taking the FSAA ELA 2? Or,
No, we have an issue with FSAA hasn't been put in SMS, unfortunately. And so it's a problem that's bigger than us. I think it needs to go through the guidance department, like Marlene West.
I mean, I've already emailed Cindy and I'm sorry that I'm holding everybody up, but I'm just trying to understand, is that going to stop one of my 12th graders from being graduation ready? Because when they were in 10th grade and took the FSAA, ELA, somebody or somehow it didn't either get administered or it didn't get scored and put on trays.
So he didn't, do you know whether he
I don't
took
know.
it?
I wasn't here and it might not even have been at my school. It could have been a kid who came later.
She's asking if it's a graduation requirement, just like the FSA is.
If he's going to get a standard diploma via access points, yes.
So
it's a
we have to.
graduation requirement.
So what I'm asking, I guess, is my original question is, during this window time, you're going to have a list of kids, but I might have a 12th grader who's in
Yes.
the 3-4 who's going to take the 1-2 test.
Yes.
That's what I
that
was
is
asking.
possible,
Okay.
yes.
I think that's it. Thanks.
Anyone else have a list?
It's freezing in here.
Okay. Access 1.0, March 27th and April 10th. See my funny? Could this have been an email? I'm sorry, there was so much to tell you. Access 2.0, April 3rd and April 12th. And they haven't been posted on Sign Me Up yet. So I will send an email out when they're all posted. But it's good to tell them to save the date. Yes, Roseanne.
February 23rd?
23rd is going to be FSAA. To
February
actually
23rd.
administer the assessment is for teachers.
If a teacher did not take Access Points 1.0, but did take Access Points 2.0,
They
can they
can,
attend that?
yes,
Okay.
they can, and they can administer,
Okay.
yes. Yeah,
Just in case.
yeah, just in case. And one more,
Where? Oh.
no, one more funny.
Oh, yes.
Okay, spring break's coming, promise. Okay, if you have individual questions, oh, here we go.
I'm a new staffing specialist at Ocoee High School now. I wasn't even aware that I was supposed to be the FSA coordinator. Okay. Yay! So the materials that are supposed to come to my school, have they been pre-ordered? Is there a list, or do I have to put it in that order?
Based on FTE. So
Based on FTE? Okay, perfect.
It's in the course. You do
Excellent.
not have to order.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you all. Thanks.